After surprising us with the announcement back in February of this year, Epic Mickey Rebrushed has finally been released. And as someone who has beaten the game, many people are going to be wondering, is the game truly worth it? Well, in today's video, that is what we aim to answer, as I've compiled all my thoughts about the game, both good and bad. And at the end of the video, I shall answer the question of whether you should or should not buy Epic Mickey Rebrushed. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let us answer the question of whether you should buy Epic Mickey Rebrushed. Epic Mickey Rebrushed was developed by THQ Nordic, who set out to make a very faithful remake of Epic Mickey. And since the game is very faithful to the original, that does mean a lot of the problems that come with the original game still show up in Rebrushed. The game has not been transformed into some gaming masterpiece or anything like that. At the end of the day, it is still Epic Mickey, just very touched up with its quality of life improvements and whatnot. So the game is still going to have some lackluster gameplay here and there. It is still going to be quite a simple game. So if you're going to Epic Mickey Rebrushed thinking that, oh yeah, they're going to change so much from the original game, this could be a completely brand new experience, then unfortunately, you're going to be very disappointed. Now that isn't to say that Epic Mickey Rebrushed won't give you a fun time, because it certainly will do. Despite its issues, Epic Mickey was always a fun game, just nothing groundbreaking. And with that point set in stone, let us start off with the pros of Epic Mickey Rebrushed. The biggest fix that this remake brings to the table has to do with the camera. The camera in the original Epic Mickey plagued the game constantly, due to the whole game being made for a Wii mode. So obviously, camera control was always going to be a bit of an issue, but the fact that it is a Wii game still cannot take away from the fact that the camera was a problem. It always got in the way of the game's platforming and even combat as well. But thankfully, due to actually not being a Wii game anymore, because it's actually for all platforms now, the camera has, thank God, been fixed in Epic Mickey Rebrushed. It's just a camera that you would expect to see in any regular video game, and in Epic Mickey Rebrushed, this does mean the game is a whole lot more fun. Because the main gimmick of Epic Mickey was painting things in with the paintbrush, and obviously aiming with the paintbrush required the camera, and yeah, in the original, the camera was of course a problem. But now that the remake fixes the camera, painting in the game is so much more fluid and actually fun to do. And what also makes the game more fun in the remake compared to the original is the controls. The controls of the original Epic Mickey were another problem for the game, because Mickey was just way too darn slow for the amount of ground they had to actually cover in that game. And they could also be a bit clunky at times as well, which of course didn't mesh well with the terrible camera in that game. But bundled in with the new camera in the game, the controls in Epic Mickey Rebrushed have also been completely redone. Movement in Epic Mickey Rebrushed never felt so fluid up until this point. You can turn so easily, of course aided by the camera now, and you can get so much more distance covered in the air both horizontally and vertically with the way jumping and spinning with the brush works now. You get so much more height with the double jump in this game now, because it's actually, you know, higher, and also it feels a whole lot more floaty. And the floatiness is not a bad thing in the slides, because I always felt in the original Epic Mickey that the jump felt way too heavy, but now in the remake it's a lot more floaty and it works very well. And then on top of the double jump being higher, spinning with the brush also gives you more distance vertically and horizontally too. And especially when you actually combine the spinning and jumping in one button press, you get even more height than before, making this jumping and even correcting jumps as well just so much more satisfying and actually fun to use. But not only that, in Epic Mickey Rebrushed, 3 brand new moves have been added to Mickey's arsenal. First off is a sprint, which is nothing crazy, but obviously Epic Mickey originally was quite a slow game, but now with the sprint, it's not drastically faster, but it still is very noticeably faster, so that's a nice change added there. And then the second new move is the dash attack, allowing Mickey to have a short dash forward in whichever direction you're actually holding. It might not seem that crazy just from looking at it, but trust me, when you're playing the game and combining it with the sprint, you can cover so much more ground than you could do in the original game, and it's so fun to play now. It no longer feels like a chore going from one side of Mean Street to the other now, because you got the sprint and dash to make it go faster. And this also results in exploration being more fun, because you know that even if you go to like one side of the map, you can actually go back to the original place in seconds, so you really don't feel like you're wasting too much time in this game. And then the third addition to Mickey's moveset is the ground pound. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't really find too much use for it. It's apparently supposed to be good for combat, but it just does the same thing as spinning. You can just spin an enemy and it does the same thing as a ground pound. There are a couple uses for it that I did find in the game. There are some launchy objects in the 2D levels which could use a ground pound to make it faster, so that's something. But the main use I found the ground pound for is to actually break your fall damage. Because if you fall for too long in Epic Mickey, obviously you take fall damage, but if you use a ground pound right at the last second, you can actually avoid taking any fall damage, so I thought that was kind of cool to use. Don't really know if that's actually intended or not, but it's still a thing you can do in the remake, and it's alright, I guess. But yeah, apart from that, the ground pound, honestly, visually, it looks very cool. I like all the paint coming out of Mickey or the ink or whatever, but in actual gameplay, there's barely any use for it, so it's nice to have, I guess, to have something more to Mickey's moveset, but you don't really want to, or even need to use it, really. Now, the final thing about the controls I actually really like is the button mapping. Now that we no longer have to use a Wiimote and motion controls for the actual game, we can actually put different moves that Mickey has onto a button on the controller, my favourite being the Guardians. I don't think I used a single Guardian in my original Epic Mickey playthrough on the Wii because the way to use them, I think, was by shaking the nunchuck, and that's just not convenient in the slightest. But in Rebrushed, using a Guardian is just a simple press of the RB button, and boom, Guardian used. And it actually opened up my eyes to see that Guardian is actually very, very useful. It made combat way more fluid now, because if I want to get an enemy to my side or just kill them instantly, I could just use a Guardian now. No need to waste time. And stuff like that shows that controls really do bring a game down or make it even better depending how good they are. And I'm happy to say that the controls and camera in Epic Mickey Rebrushed definitely improve the experience by a landslide. But now moving away from the camera and the controls are the visuals. Since Epic Mickey Rebrushed is a remake, not a remaster, people need to learn the difference between those two. Everything in the game has been done from the ground up. The textures, the visuals, everything. That means that we have a better lighting engine. You can see a lot of beautiful light rays coming in some areas, especially the Gremlin Village. And the game runs at a silky smooth 60 FPS. Most of the time, but we'll talk about that later. But where I think that this remake does the best in terms of visuals is the 2D projector levels. In the original Epic Mickey, these have looked fine, they looked alright. Nothing crazy about it, yeah, they just looked okay. But in Rebrushed, they've added so much to these little levels here to make them just look visually beautiful. Whether it's all the little outlines and everything, a bit of cell shading here and there, and the lighting again, the colours that now pop so nicely, they just look fantastic here. And with the new controls that Mickey has in this game, it just makes playing these levels even more fun. Carrying on with the visuals of the game, the effects in the game are so crisp and clean. Whether it's Mickey spinning with his brush, or painting in an enemy to get them to your side, or maybe it's just like a fire particle in some area, it all looks so beautiful. When it comes to visuals in Epic Mickey Rebrushed, it pretty much is just flawless. Like, I can't really see any major issues that just ruin the whole experience. Some changes I like that have actually been added to the remake too is when Mickey gets hit by anything, like taking damage in thinner, the whole screen flashes black for a second to show that, yeah, Mickey got hit. It's a small thing, but I actually really do like it. You can really feel the impact of what Mickey just felt right there with that black flash on the screen. I don't know, it just makes it feel really nice. I know it's a bit weird saying that taking damage feels nice, but yeah, whatever, they somehow did it in this game. And then the final thing in terms of visuals is, a lot of the models that were 2D in the original Epic Mickey are now 3D in the remake. All of Goofy's, Daisy's and Donald's parts are all 3D now. The wrenches in the game are also 3D. It just looks nice. It's great to see the models actually being upgraded to 3D now. Looks very nice. And next up on the list we have the nice quality of life changes added to the game. There are a whole bunch added into the game, too many to really name right now and for me to actually remember, but two of them that I want to talk about right now is one, painted enemies that are now on Mickey's side attack other enemies with paint. In the original game, this was not the case, as the enemies that were actually painted in by Mickey would attack other enemies with thinner, meaning that if you're trying to paint in an enemy and one of your allies actually hits that enemy, your work is going to be undone because obviously they're going to be turned back into their regular form again. So it does actually give a bit of an incentive to actually paint in enemies rather than thin them out, because it actually helps you with combat to make it a lot more easier as well. So there's always these bonuses here, man. And then the second quality of life change that I actually really like about this game is the e-tickets no longer have a cap on how many you can actually collect. In the original game, you have to actually upgrade how many e-tickets you can actually carry as Mickey, but in the remake, that cap is no longer there. You can carry as many e-tickets as you like. And once again, this is another great change, because I actually don't understand why the cap was there in the first place, because why would you limit how much things you can collect in a collectathon, kinda? That seems a bit stupid to me, so the fact that they removed that now, yeah, good change. And moving on to quality of life changes, we have the redone CGI cutscenes for the remake. The original opening and ending cutscene of Epic Mickey were all CGI animations, and they looked pretty nice for the time they were actually released at, but in Rebrushed, pretty much just like everything else in the game, they've been completely remade. Everything from the animation has been doubled to 60 FPS now, the lighting, just everything. It's so crisp and clean here, man. I can't tell you how many times I just rewatched that opening because of how beautiful it is, man. Like, it's just eye candy, man. So good looking, man. Holy crap. Imagine we could get like a whole game just looking at the CGI cutscenes one day with technology advancing so quickly. That would be actually insane. Moving to another aesthetically pleasing thing about the remake is the menus. These menus have had a huge upgrade from the original, both in terms of how they look and also how you actually use them. You have so many more options to actually do things here. You got like costumes, extras, see the pins you've got, you can see the map, the quests you're currently doing. Everything that you want to have in a menu for Epic Mickey is actually here now. Thank God for that, and then they just look very nice as well. And this might be a bit of a dumb thing to compliment here, but I like how they actually kept the multiple save files in this remake. Because a lot of games nowadays, especially platformers, remove that feature to have multiple save files, but in this game specifically, they keep the multiple save files feature here, so no need to worry there. And then in these menus as well, obviously these are actually access photo mode. Now I'm going to be honest, even though it's actually nice to have a photo mode in here, I'd rather have it here than not have it, but it's not the most interesting photo mode of all time. It's basically like the one in the Sonic Frontiers or something like that, where you just pause the game at any point in time. You can't have Mickey do an emote or something, or you can't put like a sticker on the screen or something like that. Nah, you just move the camera wherever you want and then chuck a bunch of random filters on it, and that's basically it. And it's even worse in the 2D projector levels because you can't move the camera at all there. Like, I understand not being able to move it too much because obviously it's a 2D level, so you don't want to break things in terms of the visuals, but at least let's zoom in and out a bit, because you can barely get any cool shots in these levels because the camera is just fixed in one position and that's it. Like, what's the point of that? Before we stop talking about the menus, I just want to say one more thing. The concept art used on the loading screens here is once again beautiful. It's all brand new art done specifically for the remake as well, so it's not even reused from the original, so again, another bonus point for the visual of this game. And speaking of concept art, in the remake, the amount of concept art has been tripled from the original game, meaning that you've got a lot more looking around to do for this game to actually get every single piece of concept art in the game. And with there being so much more concept art in the original, that comes with brand new areas to explore, more specifically in the 2D projector levels. Most of the time they're usually behind the starting of the stage or after the projector screen, but even still, it's barely even noticeable that these weren't there before because they blend in so well with the original level design. They don't stick out like a sore thumb like some certain other games, Sonic Colors Ultimate. No, none of that. The level design here is intact and very consistent with the actual original level design, and yeah, just overall, yeah, pretty well designed stuff here, man. And now I might be wrong in saying this, and you could probably tell me in the comments below, but I feel like some areas in the actual main 3D areas have also been added for the concept art, but once again, I'm not too familiar with the original game, even though I've played it like a couple of times here and there, but I think there's some new areas added, but don't quote me on that. But where there are some new things added are the boss fights, at least some of them. More specifically, the clock tower boss fight in the small world area of the game. The camera is way more zoomed out than the original, making so you can actually see stuff, and the clock tower actually slams the ground here and there too to spawn some cogwheels that weren't there before. So even though it's not much there to make the boss fights that much interesting, it is still something, and I can appreciate that, so kudos to them for actually adding that in. And then something else also added into the remake specifically are costumes. Now there are 5 total costumes in this game, 3 which actually come with the digital deluxe version of the game or the DLC that you actually have to pay for, and then 2 of them I think you buy from the shop, but I'm not sure because I never actually found out how to actually unlock them, so yeah. But while it is nice that the costumes are actually there in the first place, they are pretty much all just reused from Epic Mickey 2, so if you're expecting something completely brand new in terms of costumes for this game, you're going to have a very fruitless search because, again, like I said already, they all reused from the second game. But even though the costumes have been brought over from Epic Mickey 2, the fact that the costumes gave you different abilities in Epic Mickey 2 has not been brought into Epic Mickey Rebrushed. Which I guess is understandable, but, you know, it would have been nice to have, but I'm not really complaining about that too much, to be honest. I do think there should have been more than just 2 costumes to actually buy in the game because, I mean, come on, 2 costumes, really? Is that it? With Mickey's large history? You surely could have came up with more than just 2. I mean, I know you're just reusing it from Epic Mickey 2, but come on now. But now for the final addition to this remake, and also the final pro we'll be talking about right here, is the new theatre on Mean Street. Now the theatre was always there in the original Epic Mickey, but you could never actually enter it, I don't believe, but now in the remake, you can actually enter it now, and not just that, there's actually a level select in there for all the projector levels you've actually previously completed. So rather than just going to a specific area in the game to play just one projector level, if you collect the film reel in that level, it actually appears in the theatre, you can just replay it straight from there. Boom, job's a good one. Now I think this feature could have gone a bit further, however though, I think they could have allowed you to use fast travel in here as well by going through this projector level rather than just being a level select, but I mean, it's alright, I suppose. I mean, it's a cool little thing visually at least anyways, because there's actually brand new stuff here, but again, I think it could have been used for proper fast travel in this game from Mean Street to anywhere in the game. But with that, that is pretty much all the pros and the addition that this remake brings to the table. And yet overall, a decent amount of changes added to the original game to make it better, and let's now talk about the cons of the remake, unfortunately. Now the first one, and the hardcore Epic Mickey fans are going to get mad at me for saying this, but there's no voice acting in the remake still. Like, you'd think with Epic Mickey 2 having voice acting in that game, and with this remake coming out nearly 10 years after that game, they'd put in voice acting in here, but no, that didn't happen for some reason. Now, I do not care what any Epic Mickey fans are going to say in the comments in response to this. Voice acting in this game, it should have been here. I don't care what you say, it should have been in here as an option at least anyways. If you wanted to have no voice acting, then have that be a feature in the setting we can just turn it off. Boom, original experience for you, that you don't have to complain. But for people like me who wanted to have voice acting in this game, and not just read subtitles in the cutscenes, why don't we get catered towards? They clearly wanted these cutscenes to be voice acted because all the characters in the cutscenes move their mouths when talking, and they also have little grunts every time a line is read, so why not just have them be voice acted? I've seen so many casuals been picking up Epic Mickey Rebrushed for the first time wondering why there's no voice acting here, and that should prove a point right there. This is a game made in 2024, a high budget 3D platformer. Why is there no voice acting? It makes zero sense. And to make matters even worse, in some cutscenes, the subtitles move way too flippin' fast so you can barely even read them half the time, and I mean, if they were voice acted, that wouldn't be an issue because they'd be read out loud anyway, so you wouldn't just have to read them anyway, you just have to listen with the ears, but now you have to read it with our eyes instead of just listening. Like, it's a big problem, man. It's issues like this where I feel like the remake is way too faithful to the original game. Like, having a faithful remake is not bad in any scenario at all, and that's usually the case with most remakes. Like, people love the original game, so they want a remake of it just with better visuals and just things touched up here and there. But with a game like Epic Mickey, a lot more needed doing to the game to make it more than just a fun game. Because the original game, in terms of gameplay, had a lot of issues that plagued the game for the most part. And because this remake is a faithful remake, that means all those gameplay issues from the original game are now here in the remake. Meaning that despite the remake itself being a great remake, it's still not that amazing of a video game to play. It's not a terrible game by any means, far from it, but it's not the greatest game you'll ever play or a defining game of its genre or something like that. No, not in the slightest. The platforming is still very basic, there is barely any difficulty curve in the game, so it basically stays nearly at a flat line the entire time. And the combat is still kind of mindless and boring for the most part. It's a fun game for like the first 3 hours or something like that, but after that, the gameplay loop gets very boring because you're just doing the same things over and over again, whether it's collecting stuff or just running from a projector level over and over again. And if the platforming got more interesting and whatever, it would have been fine, but obviously with Epic Mickey, it just doesn't, so it just leaves the game feeling a bit boring. And to know I'm kind of bashing the game right now, and it's not really the remake developers' fault. I mean, it's more so the fault on the actual original developers who made the original game, because they didn't really make a fantastic game to begin with, so when it came to making a faithful remake, you can't really expect the developers to fix every single problem and completely revamp the game entirely, because that's just too much work. Because in doing something like that, they could just end up losing the original audience who loved the original game no matter what. So even though me personally, I would have loved to see a complete revamping the original game, I still do think that having this be a faithful remake was the way to go. And unfortunately for this game, that does mean it still isn't that fantastic of a video game itself. A fantastic remake, mind you, but as an actual game, it's not that impressive. Anyways, after that little rant there, sorry about that, just had to get that out because I don't know, I was speaking my mind there, I guess. Let's now talk about the removals that this remake brings from the original game. And this is a feat of any remake of a game. Along with adding stuff into the game, you don't want them to remove too many things, and I don't think the remake actually does too many things that are bad in terms of removing things, but there are some things I would have liked to see kept from the original game. There are some breakable objects, and this might seem like a stupid thing to complain about, but I'm just saying it, but yeah, some things that were breakable in the original game, more specifically in the opening area of the game in Dark Beauty Castle, some things that were breakable in the original game are no longer breakable now, so that is a bit of a shame. And one stylistic choice that's actually been removed from the original game is in the final area of the game, so if you don't want spoilers, just skip ahead like, I don't know, 30 seconds or something like that. When Oswald gets sucked in by the blot in the original game, you can see he's actually there lifeless, not moving. He looks pretty much dead like everybody else in there, but in the remake now, he's actually completely fine and moving and whatever. And I do think that is a bit of a loss there. I kind of did have a feeling that they were going to try and babyfy some things in this game because, you know, modern day Disney, they aren't really the same as they used to be. But it is sad to see some creepy stuff like this been, you know, just taken away now. Like, I thought seeing Oswald, the lifeless or whatever in the original game was actually kind of sick. It just showed how serious the blot actually was, but now that Oswald's just there kind of chilling and alive or whatever, it kind of does take away from the seriousness of the plot, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of does. It's not game ruining or anything like that, but it's just something I would have liked to see kept in this game, but unfortunately it's gone, so that is a bit of a shame. Now, despite Mickey's new addition to his moveset being quite nice, there are some small nitpicks that I do have with them. The first of them being the way the paint works in this game. More specifically, how it fills in with the paint. I feel like in the original game, painting things in felt more natural and just more fluid, but in the remake, painting things in is very patchy in a way that does not feel natural at all. Like, you'll paint something in on the floor and think that, oh, I can walk forward now because I've actually painted this in, but when the paint's actually been filled in, it just fills in like a very patchy way. It's kind of hard to explain, to be honest, but if you play the game and the original, you'll know what I mean. And then the other nitpick I have with the Mickey's controls in this game is the fact that his jump when sprinting carries zero momentum. It doesn't matter what speed you're moving at, the amount of distance that you get with Mickey's jump will always be the same. It doesn't matter if you're sprinting or walking, the same every single time, and I feel like that is a bit of an issue. It feels, again, very unnatural and kind of ruins the pace a bit because you'll be sprinting all that speed you've got there, then you jump and lose it all. I just don't like that, to be honest. I get it would kind of break some parts of the original game, but to be fair, the dash already kind of does in the remake, so I mean, why not just give the jump momentum, right? I mean, come on. Now, some visual things I do think look a bit strange in this game are the gremlin models. Like, I don't know what it is about them, but especially Gus, the way lighting looks on him is so weird. Like, he looks very, very bright half the time. Like, he's got no colour in him, like, he's very non-saturated. And I find it weird because Mickey's model in this game looks perfectly fine, no issues with that at all, but Gus's model, he looks so washed out. I don't know what the hell happened to him. And then another tiny little nitpick here is, in the original game when Mickey jumped into a projector, there'd be like a little ripple effect on the projector screen when Mickey would jump into it, but in the remake, that has been removed for some reason, and it's kind of weird because pretty much everything in this game in terms of animation is pretty solid, but this one thing has been removed, and you can say it's not much of an issue, but with the amount of projectors actually in the game, you will notice it a lot. So again, it maybe can be like another patch for the game, something to fix that, hopefully, we'll have to see. Because the final con to talk about with this game is the performance, specifically on the PC version and also the Switch version actually. During my playthrough of the game on PC, there were a lot of stuttering here and there and frame drops, especially the stuttering part. I'm pretty sure it's the game compiling its shaders when you're playing the game or whatever, but it's not smooth in the slightest. Like, during the game, you'll be just playing the game normally, and then the game just stutters whenever you encounter a brand new texture or whatever, and it happens very frequently to the point where it does get kind of annoying. And then from what I've seen and heard on the Switch version, it runs like crap on there. It runs even worse than the original game on the Wii, and for a remake, I get it's a Nintendo Switch, but that's not something that really should be happening. Like, the original game was a Wii game, so at least give the Switch users some respect at least, man. Like, come on now. Because from what I played on the PS5 version, it runs buttery smooth, so why is the PC version and the Switch version getting the short end of the sticks here? I don't know. But with all that, I believe that is pretty much everything to talk about with the remake then, so there are both good and bad parts of this remake. So it's now time for the final verdict. Is Epic Mickey Rebrushed worth your money? Well, depending on who you are, that answer will change. If you're a huge Epic Mickey fan and actually just love the original game to death, then this game is for you. Buy it right now. I don't know why you're hesitating, if you got it already, buy it right now. But if you're someone who has never played an Epic Mickey game before and they're just kind of interested in it and just, I don't know, maybe just looking to see if you want to play it or not, I would say technically the game at its current price, which is full price of $60, I don't think it's worth it for that amount of money. I do not think it's worth it at all. If you're going to buy this game, I would personally say wait for a sale on it because it's just not worth $60, man. It really isn't. Like, again, as a remake, it is fantastic. Does everything a remake needs to do, but again, as an actual video game that you're going to play, it's, again, not that interesting. So if you paid $60 as a person who has never actually played an Epic Mickey game before, you would kind of feel a bit robbed. Because there are so many more interesting 3D platformers out there than this game. It's not a bad game, again, not a bad game by any means, but again, it's just not the most interesting game of all time, and you will feel robbed by paying it full price, so just wait for a sale, man, wait for a sale. Anyways, yeah, that pretty much does it for this review of Epic Mickey Rebrushed. So if I had to give this game a number rating out of 10, I would probably give it a 7, but I think that's being a bit generous, honestly, because again, great remake, but not that interesting of a game, but it's improved from the original game, so I'll give it a 7, I guess. A very generous 7. Very generous 7. But let me know what you guys think of this game. Did you enjoy it as an Epic Mickey fan? And let me know why and what you'd rate the game out of 10. Let me know down below. Love to see what you guys have to say. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, especially the last one. Don't forget to become unleashed by hitting that join button down below. And remember, it's not necessary. And I will see you all next time. Peace.